So one of the interesting takeaways from Falcons rookie mini camp over the weekend was the fact that Matthew Bergeron was playing exclusively guard. Now, Matthew Bergeron is the second-round draft pick for the Atlanta Falcons this past season. Excuse me. Played tackle at Syracuse. He was purely a tackle at Syracuse. And he had one practice. Let me say this. One practice at guard in the Senior Bowl. Other than that, he's never played guard in his career. Now, obviously, they are going to give Matthew Bergeron the ultimate shot to win this job. And we've talked about this on the podcast before, that there aren't a lot of great in-house candidates, whether it's Matt Hennessy, whether it's Kyle Hinton, whether it's Jalen Mayfield, what's his name, Schrader or whatever, or sorry, the kid from Georgia. Like I don't even remember, I can't remember his name now, just because again he doesn't even play. But there aren't a lot of great in-house candidates to play at that guard position right now. And I have this sneaking feeling that Matthew Bergeron right now is the leader in the clubhouse to play that guard position, even though he's not played it in college and he's had one practice in Senior Bowl before this weekend at minicamp. And look, he's a big dude, 6'5", 322 pounds, right? He's a big, solid dude. And he talked about over the weekend about the idea of, hey, it's faster and this and that. And obviously the NFL game is very fast. And he's got to, get some things down playing inside, where he's got two guys boxing him in. But let me put it like this. We've got to trust Matthew Bergeron, because I do feel like for right now, unless something drastic happens, that he's the leader in the clubhouse to take that left guard spot. And look, it's got to be better than Jalen Mayfield, right? Like, it's got to be better. It's got to work itself out better than that. Mayfield was nothing but a tackle, at University of Michigan. He only had the 13 starts, and they tried to kick him inside to be a left guard. And that was the ultimate failed experiment, right? Like that, literally, he was the worst offensive lineman in the NFL in that season that he started. But as I've said, when you look at what the alternatives are, having Matt Hennessy, I like Matt Hennessy, but I don't like having two undersized guys play side by side. Hennessy's an undersized guy. Dolman's an undersized guy. I don't like having two guys side by side that play together like that. Mayfield, obviously, unless there's a miracle upon miracles that all of a sudden, physically, mentally, whatever the hurdles are, and obviously he missed all of last year to physical ailments, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, okay. Yeah. Again, he could have had spinal replacement surgery in the amount of time that he was out last year with his back. But anyway, that's another story for another day. But we've got to believe in Matthew Bergeron, because I think that he's the guy that's got to figure out a way to win this job. And they are going to give him every chance. It's not coincidence that immediately he was thrown in the mix to be the left guard, thrown at guard all weekend long. The first thing he did when he got on the practice field was immediately line up at guard. And he was there from snap one. Wasn't like that they worked him in and he played tackle and just kind of got accustomed to things and the speed of the game or this or that. Nope, he was right in at left guard. And so, again, we have to believe that he is going to be the guy that's going to nail down that position. Because, again, unless and look, obviously some things can change, right? Plans change, pal, as Vince McMahon always said. There can be some things that the Falcons do have some additional money to be able to spend. And it's not going to be long before you have June 1st cuts that come along, right? Guys that'll be designated for cut on June 1st. And then obviously, as we go into, past June 1st, we head toward training camp, we get into these mandatory minis and things like that. Guys will find themselves on the cut block, right? And then obviously the way the NFL is going to do it now, they're going to just dump a whole bunch of players onto the marketplace when they do their first rounds of cuts and things like that. It's not going to be the slow chop. It's going to be a dump of a whole lot of players. So again, for now, we have to believe that Bergeron is the guy in all of this. And look, he's a good enough athlete that hopefully he can transition to that spot. I have my concerns. Again, I know people think, fans especially, think that all of this stuff is beer league softball, right? Oh, well, if that guy can play second, he can play left field, right? I mean, that's, because you see your buddies on the weekend, they can, the guy, in your buddy's flag football game, he plays quarterback on one snap and he plays wide receiver. Oh, well, it's just easy enough to do all that stuff. Oh, it's just easy enough to go from second base to left field and all that kind of stuff. Everything is beer league softball to fans. But this is a lot harder than all of that. And it's not easy to transition. You say, well, it's just moving, inside. Yeah, but it's a whole different way of how you play. Again, at tackle, you've got some freedom to move and different things like that. At guard, you're in a phone booth. And we saw the last experiment where they had a guy that was a pure tackle that kicked inside. It was a disaster. So again, I'm having faith in this coaching staff. I'm having faith in this organization with the scouting department and all the things that they looked at, that they said, hey, this is a guy that we can kick inside and play left guard, that he's a guy that he's a good enough athlete. He was a good enough offensive lineman that we can move him inside. He can figure out, a new position, and he can figure out a way to start for us, because I don't like the guys that we have in house. I don't like the guys that we have right now. I would have certainly liked, look, if they'd have signed Elijah Wilkinson, that would have been the guy that was, in case of emergency, break glass. And when he came in, he didn't even know if he was going to play guard or tackle. He played mostly tackle in the NFL. They didn't know if, when he first signed with the Falcons last year, he was like, well, I don't know if I'm going to play guard, tackle, whatever like that. So it's the one thing that we still have to figure out how to get right. Figure out how to make this happen with Matthew Bergeron. So to the coaching staff, scouting department, everybody within the Falcons organization, I'm going to trust Matthew Bergeron. I like the kid. I think he's got the size, the strength, the athleticism, everything like that to be a successful guard in the NFL. Who knows? Maybe it's not his long-term position that he's going to play. Maybe if McGarry falls on his face moving forward in this contract, maybe Bergeron kicks himself outside at some point and they have to try to figure out guard again. But for now, in Matthew, we trust, because Bergeron looks like he's going to be the leader in the clubhouse when it comes to that left guard position. All right, once you make Hittin' Hard your first listen, make sure you go into whatever podcast platforms that you are listening on and leave us a comment that you are an everyday listener. We like to call them our everydayers. We thank you so much for being a part of our ever-growing community. We certainly want to hear from you that you do listen in 5 days a week into all of the episodes on our podcast platforms, and let us know that you're an everydayer, as we say, an everyday listener to the podcast.